growth financial speculative model.
The plenary this morning was on social and physical environments for health, and we were really looking at the ways in which the political, social and physical environment supports or detracts from people's health. I was talking about the need to understand how come we live with such massive inequities, what are the processes that enables the world to put up with those inequities, and then thinking about, well, what kind of alternative world do we want? What kind of economic system do we want? And what kind of structures do we need to stop people becoming so wealthy and exploiting the earth and not sharing goods equitably? So, you know, then to sum up that we need to consume less and share more, basically.
The reasons of the drought. Climate has a little percentage to do with it, but I blame it so much on the locals' laxity for not taking up to themselves to ensure that they have food, to ensure that they reclaim their dry land and put them into use. But it's because of lack of dissemination of information to these people. The response that we had was number one, allow the people of the northeastern province to use River Tana the same way the people of the coastal province are using River Tana to do irrigation for crop farming alongside keeping cattle. Then we'll have solved a bigger percentage of the ongoing hunger that keep on recurring in the northeastern province. Another thing is allow NGOs to go into these people, not just to feed them, but also to empower them through advocacy on what they are supposed to do, because it will never be solved if we keep on giving food all the time and maintaining the same status quo. But within their approach, they should include advocacy and dissemination of proper information to these people.
And of a very small minority, 30%.
Until probably the last 10 years, people have been talking about the world having a real problem of food security. And there were very clear presentations during this workshop that the issue of food security, which is defined enough food of sufficient quality 12 months of the year, that means that you don't have a hungry season for every household, is an issue that has been too much concentrated on the production and the consumption. The prices of food in the last 4 or 5 years have seen a phenomenal increase, almost doubling. So it has a tremendous effect on the poor people. Now, the emphasis on the session was to tell us that the reason for these important fluctuations in the price have very little to do with production. The real underlying cause and basic cause for this problem of very important price hikes is the speculation that happens in the commodity markets, in the case of food in London.
This man here, Baby Doc, was the dictator in Haiti. Now this was his father, Papa Doc, who was notorious for many reasons. As many people know, there was a devastating earthquake in 2010 in Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, and many people in the hospital where I worked donated food. And I was interested in figuring out a way to explain why food donations might not be such a good idea. And I came up with a little play that I presented here at the session on food sovereignty. So maybe we could offer him a little money, maybe $100. Still not convinced. All right. Military aid. We'll offer him military aid. Here's a little plane. He can fly over and drop bombs on his people. Isn't that cute? All right. This is a tough customer here. All right, Jean-Claude. All right. He's an international playboy, Jean-Claude. I mean, he's never left Haiti, actually, but he is an international playboy. So we're going to send him an Aston Martin car. Oh, yes.
The concept of food security is not a concept that we endorse at PHM. we endorse the concept of food security and food sovereignty. Food sovereignty entails or means that the focus is on the right of people who are food producers, and that includes farmers and fisher folks and others, to control the production and the way their products are commercialized, and not depending on international food prices, for instance. The concept of food sovereignty was born or created or presented by an organization that is as global as the PHM is, and they are called Via Campesina. Via Campesina and PHM are strategic partners. We agree with what they have to say about agriculture. They agree with what we have to say about health, which is that there are structural causes behind the crisis in health and the crisis in food.
Street Talk is a non-profit organization, and we aim to create a window into other people's lives who live in communities around Cape Town. So our films touch on the subjects that most or often not spoken about, often taboo.
And she refused to take the TB drugs because we compromised her child. And when the baby was born, she was now full out with TB, and she ended up in ICU. And her husband, he was in private practice.
Some of the films that we've shown at the festival are specifically about health. The one film is about doctors and the situation in state hospitals. Another film is about disabled people and their dreams and aspirations and what their experiences of living in South African society.
Sometimes when you're working with your girlfriend and they say, these lesbians, this is a sin and something like that, but they call themselves as Christians. But in the name of Christianity, you say that you don't need to discriminate or judge other people. But I don't understand when a person says that you're being gay and this is a sin.
A person might be a lesbian, and you might feel, well, you don't like lesbians, and that's a label on a person. But when you watch one of the Street Talk films, you are able to see a lesbian talking about themselves as a human being, and that allows the viewer to kind of like see the person not as a label, but as a human being and as somebody that they can relate to on a one-on-one level. So our films, we don't try to have a list of do's and don'ts, do this, don't do that, don't like lesbians, don't like lesbians, do drugs, don't do drugs. What we do is we show people's situations and how they are in their situations, and we let the viewer make their own conclusions. And I believe that is a much more powerful film than making a film which is just a list of the do's and don'ts or a preachy kind of style, you know?